Welcome everyone to Integral's monthly webinar. I'm Callie Busby, and today we're going to be talking about Web 3.0. What is Web 3.0, and is it actually anything at all? Before we get started, just like to say there's a bit of audience participation in the middle. So if you want to post answers in the chat or in the Q&A section, feel free to do so. And you can also unmute your microphone and talk if you feel comfortable doing that. And as always, if you want to reach out and learn more after the presentation, we have this handy link, hello@integral.io, where you can contact us. All right, so let us get started with what is Web 3.0. First, a little bit about me. I'm Callie. I'm a senior software engineer at Integral. I'm a full-time consultant, so I work with clients and help them build software solutions to their problems. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Computer Science and Economics from a very tiny liberal arts college in Ohio. I think the economics background kind of helps set the foundational ideas for Web3 because a lot of it is turning finance and currency, which maybe some of you aren't surprised about. So moving on, I thought I would begin with a TLDR, too long, didn't read. So if you want to get the gist of the whole thing, I'm just going to spill the secret sauce right now. So what is Web3? Web 1, 2, and 3 all represent paradigm shifts in how we use the internet as new technology emerges. So, so there is a Web 1 and a Web 2, and this is Web 3.0, or the third iteration of how we use the internet. Is it anything at all? Is it just a buzzword? Web 3 represents a prediction of how people will use the internet in the future. So if you were going to say, oh, it's just a buzzword, it's not any tangible product or service, it would be defensible to say, yeah, it's just a buzzword. People don't know the future. So let us move on to our agenda. I'm going to talk about each iteration of the web and the concepts, so you get an idea of what Web 1 and 2 are. So when we talk about Web 3.0, you'll be able to see the changes over time. And then we're going to talk about cryptocurrency because it's pretty central to some of the ideas of Web 3.0. And at the end, we're going to have a Q&A section. And there's going to be a little bit of audience participation in the middle. And I'll warn you about that. So let's jump right in. Here is a timeline of what we're talking about. The first ever website was published in 1991. And that represents the beginning of the web. So that's Web 1.0. Then as time progressed, an article was published that mentioned the web is going through a transformation and it's going to be a new iteration. So they called that Web 2 or Web 2.0. And that was first mentioned in 1999. And then by the year 2004, O'Reilly decided to have a conference called Web 2.0. So they really popularized the terms and they brought a bunch of geeks together to discuss what will the new web look like and generate excitement. So that's the timeline, and we'll go further into the future as this presentation goes along. So I am saying approximately Web 1 or Web 1.0 was around between the years of 91 and 2004. People adopt technology over time and at their own pace. So you might be using more Web 1 concepts than someone else might be, because it's just about the adoption rate of some of these technologies. So it isn't a shift that happens all at once. It's gradual over time. So what was Web 1 like? Remember, we're doing 91 through 2004. Web 1 was kind of an information hub. You have static web pages. They don't change or have many user interactions. It's kind of just like you go there, you read something, and you leave because you're looking for information. And over on the right-hand side of the screen, this is a picture of what the first website looked like. It was captured in 1992 because we did not save the original website from 1991. So I've seen several lamentations about that. So let us go there real quickly and kind of look around. I think it's a good sample of what the early web was like. So you come here, everything's a hyperlink. I don't have the ability to edit or comment on things. It's a pretty rudimentary. So if I click on what's out there, I get an overview page by subject. So this is what people were using Web 1 for. It was an information source like US copyright law. That's public information that you want to disseminate to a lot of folks at once. So this was certainly a helpful tool in doing that. Another website I wanted to highlight, just because it's really adorable and nostalgic for me, is the page for Space Jam, the movie. This is a pretty famous page that has been preserved through the years, and it's just an adorable little time capsule. And like the first website ever, it's just a page with a bunch of hyperlinks, but in this case, we have icons instead of text. So if you're nostalgic for Web 1.0, I recommend going here and clicking around, because I think it's just like adorable and slightly tacky and very retro. I love it. So back over to here. We're going to do a little bit of audience participation now. So feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat. What websites did you visit before 2004? What were you doing on the internet? Something fun, something nostalgic? I see Neopets, the Hamster Dance, Homestar Runner, Yahoo. All right. Oh, we had lots of early adopters of web technology. Very nice. I was mostly a console gamer, so I wasn't online very much before 2004. I was always on my game consoles. But I do remember Neopets, like Richard. I was playing Neopets, and that's about the only distinct memory that I have of Web 1. Now let us go a little farther into the future. And now we're getting into Web 2. So Web 2.0, it became popularized in 2004, but it didn't come on all at once, but we'll say approximately Web 2 started in 2004, and we're still in Web 2.0 today. All right, so another look at the timeline. We heard about that O'Reilly conference in 2004 for defining Web 2.0. And now we're comfortably in it. And in 2014, Gavin Wood, who's the co-founder of Ethereum, proposed Web3 as a solution to today's problems with the internet. So let's talk about the hallmarks of Web 2. Dynamic web pages with JavaScript. So in Web 2, you get to see more interactivity, like things on the page are moving. You can make full games in HTML5 and JavaScript, and you don't need to use a Flash player, which I'm sure some of you might remember. So we're seeing like more movement and more interactivity on Web 2. The rise of individual participation, it became much easier for you to create your own website and host it. So there was more blogging, more social media, more comments. So everyone got onto the internet. It wasn't just folks who were posting public information like US common law. Now more people are able to participate since JavaScript gave them an easy way to like submit content of their own. The rise of technology giants like Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple. And if we're talking about the big five, sometimes Microsoft is also included in that category. So I'm assuming most of you are on Web 2. You came to a presentation in Zoom, so you are fairly capable at using Web 2. What's something that maybe you're not excited about in today's state of the web? And feel free to just throw it into the chat. Cookies. Couple votes for cookies. Oh, the paywall. Non-anonymous, ad tracking, loading time. Everything is controlled by corporations, pop-ups, viruses. Everything's controlled by the government. All right, it sounds like you guys are picking up on my drift and what Web3 is meant to solve. So personally, I dislike having my data collected and sold to third-party advertisers without knowing exactly what's being shared and when and how it's collected. So the lack of transparency and the like insidious trackers that follow us around the net, where people have become like the product, like my habits and my browsing is being sold to companies so that they can more effectively advertise to me and hopefully get more cash out of me. So the users have become a product in Web 2. So we're lacking transparency in the way my data is collected and who it's shared with, and we're obviously lacking privacy. So Web3 was proposed by Gavin Woods, as I said, and he and some other thinkers, geeks, visionary types are thinking about ways we can solve some of the issues with Web 2, which everybody, it seems like, can relate to, because I just saw a bunch of good examples in the chat. So this presentation is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. So there's a little disclaimer for you. So let's go over problems of Web 2 one more time, and then we'll line them up with the proposed solutions. Power is being consolidated to tech giants, banks, governments, just centralized regulators that can do what they see fit and maybe abuse their power comes into play with that. Users can't see the algorithms that are controlling their digital world. I don't know how the algorithm is trying to influence me with recommendations, uh, data collection, et cetera, because we're not allowed to see the algorithms, the secret sauce. And users and their habits are being tracked and sold for profit. So cryptocurrency is kind of meant to address some of these issues on the web. And it's a big piece of the Web3 movement right now. So cryptocurrency, how are we going to stop the consolidation of power? A lot of them are going with a peer-to-peer networking design. And it implements something called the blockchain, which I'm sure we'll talk more about, where it's impossible for like one user or even the company that created the cryptocurrency to manipulate the blockchain or the receipts for trading. And users can't see the algorithms that control their digital world. In cryptocurrency, algorithms are often open source, and the blockchains are public, so anyone can go and look at what was traded when, and a pseudonym for the users. So that's another thing about cryptocurrency is users should be using pseudonyms and not their real identities when they're trading crypto. So in cryptocurrency, transactions are public, they're recorded on a blockchain, and they're spread. And sometimes in peer-to-peer networking type style, and we'll talk more about that in a second with images. The user's identity is obscured, and new coins are mined by your computer in some cases. That's definitely the case with Bitcoin, which is the most popular. So when someone says Web3 is going to be decentralized and we're going to take power away from corporations, this is sort of what we're talking about. So in Web 2, Google, for instance, owns their platform. They have access to their servers, and they can censor and be subpoenaed by any government, et cetera, and they're in control of how information is shared and and they control the collection of it. So they own the control in Web 2. And Web 3, there's kind of been a shift to how do we decentralize applications and make them more fair and less creepy in a sense. So in Web 3, everybody's kind of sharing information, and it's downloaded right onto your computer. So it's being shared in multiple locations. So a corporation can't come in and censor you and take down the content, because guess what? The content is on maybe hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe millions of computers. So there's no ability to take content down. Right. And feel free to stop me if you have a question or anything like that. So let's talk about maybe, okay, I see a question. What does it mean a big corporation might try to block adoption of Web3? Have you come across such instances? Um, well, Web3 is sort of about, some people think it will be about bringing power back to individual users instead of big tech conglomerates. So Google doesn't want to see that happen necessarily because they want to keep collecting our user data and make money off of that. Um, and Google's done a lot. They have a lot of free services that they use in order to collect user data. And like this presentation was created on G Suite, Google Slides for free. So they could read about what I'm using Google Slides for. And I don't get to know, I don't know the algorithm or anything like that, how they might be collecting data on this presentation. And it's sort of similar in their other products like YouTube. They monitor what things you like to watch on YouTube to get, oh, well, what can we sell them based on the things that they like to watch on YouTube? Like maybe I like to watch kitten and puppy videos. So they start sending me products for pet stores because they're like, oh, we know Callie likes pets, so she probably will go to a pet store, things of that nature. So it's really in tech giants' interest to kind of prevent people from being more in control of their data because that's how they're making massive profits. But anyway, hopefully that answered your question. So let us look at this timeline one more time, and it's slightly covered up by Zoom, so give me 1 second. So in present day, in May, just very recently, as I was writing this, in May, Bitcoin lost 20% of its value, and a lot of other cryptocurrencies were devalued as well. So there was a crypto crash, is what people are calling it right now. And I'm going to attempt to explain what happened, but Web3 is kind of like a giant iceberg, and I'm just scratching a surface layer here. So issues with cryptocurrency, why might we not be excited about that despite the promises of privacy, transparency, bringing decentralization? I would love to see more of that kind of thing on the web, but why might we not be excited about crypto? Mining a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin can be resource intensive. So Bitcoin, it was estimated by Columbia University that it takes 121-ish terawatt hours a year of energy for like mining Bitcoin. And that is more energy than the whole country of Argentina uses. So it also uses more energy than the big four combined: Facebook, Google, Apple, and Amazon, which is what I read in that article. And Anna asked the question, did they compare that with traditional banking's power use? They didn't in the article, but they said that it's more power than what the tech giants use. So I'm assuming that would be more than traditional banking, but I don't think they did that comparison. Other things that can be problematic with crypto, spear phishers can drain your account. You have to be extremely careful with your identity when you're trading in crypto. You need to make sure that you're not, your identity isn't like revealed, because what spear phishing is, and I just realized they spelled it with an F instead of a PH. Spear phishing with a PH is when a hacker or an attacker targets you specifically. That's why we're using a spear metaphor, and they're trying to learn about you by cyber stalking you basically, or they can send you an email directly and pose as someone else and try to get information out of you, then they are able to maybe accurately guess passwords and things of that nature. So you have to be careful with making sure your identity isn't exposed. Your pseudonym isn't linked directly to yourself. Another thing we're not crazy about, crypto price volatility. In May, there was a huge drop, and there's been at least another crash that I can recall, but I can't remember the date with Bitcoin. But usually after a crash, then it goes up in value again after that point. But currently, a lot of stock traders, according to the New York Times, are using it kind of like a volatile portfolio asset and treating it like a tech company stock, basically. So diversify. Don't put all your money into a cryptocurrency, even if it's a trusted one like Bitcoin. And devs can abandon their currency and walk away with investor money, which is called a rug pull. I heard about this while I was watching YouTube, actually. There was a user called Ice Poseidon. He's like an influencer type with a fan base, and he created a coin, and his users invested because they're fans of him and they want to like support his endeavors and get in on something they perceive as cool. And then he saw that the value of his coins was dropping, and he decided to end the project, and he just walked away with all the cash that was left, which was to the tune of like 50 grand. And he admitted in like an interview style YouTube video that he did that, and he took the investor money. So it was really insidious and mean-spirited, and he like totally got away with it up to the point that I have researched that particular instance. Rug pulling is pretty common, so you have to be really wary of like new crypto coins, and make sure you trust whoever is starting the project, or maybe just wait till it's older and more mature. Like you won't be making as much as an early adopter would, but then you won't be as great of a risk of a rug pull happening and you just were scammed, basically. It's an unfortunate issue, but it's fairly common right now. All right, so maybe you want to try Web3, but you don't want to be scammed. That's exactly how I feel. I'm a very like risk adverse person, so I don't want to invest my money into something unless I think it's a sure thing. I'm more on the cautious side. So I found a company that's doing something a little different, a little tweak on Web 2, and I've been using it for a couple years. So let's talk about that. So I've been using this thing called Brave browser, and Brave is built on top of Chrome, which is nice because your Chrome extensions and the Chrome extension library, you can download like any extension that you would use on Chrome, you can use on Brave. It was created by the guy that did Mozilla Firefox, one of the co-founders there. And so what does Brave do differently? So they block all ads and trackers that they can by default. By default, they're trying to prevent you from seeing targeted advertising, which I appreciate, love that. You consent to Brave ads. So you say, yes, I will see ads, and the Brave ads are not like targeted, not specific to my habits and interests. They're just what advertisers have signed up with Brave. Oh, I see a question about Brave versus DuckDuckGo. So I use Brave on my laptop, my personal laptop, in conjunction with DuckDuckGo as like the main search engine. On mobile, Brave didn't used to have a mobile browser, so I've been using DuckDuckGo's mobile browser, but I don't have like a base for comparison with mobile Brave. But it seems like it would be a good idea if you're interested in looking into Brave ads. So I'll keep going with that and explain a little bit more. So Brave ads obscure and aggregate users' attention to paid advertisers. So instead of me like having a company collect my data and send me targeted ads, Brave comes to their advertiser at the end of the month or whatever their cadence is, and they'll be like, we had 100,000 users look at your advertisement this month. Isn't that great? And they're like, great, thanks. But you don't get to know about like each individual user. So hopefully third-party advertisers aren't building like a profile on my identity with Brave. And the next thing that they're doing differently that's very Web3 is they have their own cryptocurrency. So this currency is called a basic attention token, a BAT. And when I enable Brave advertising and Brave rewards, then when I view a Brave advertisement, I earn BAT. That's how you mine the coin, by looking at the advertisements. And then I'm compensated for my attention, basically, which is an interesting idea. So you can trade your BAT tokens for digital assets, and they say that they're giving out physical gift cards, which is interesting. So you can trade your BAT for something like an NFT if you really want one. I'm just like not prepared to talk about NFTs, but I will answer questions about them if you'd like me to. You can tip your favorite websites. So if you are on a website that you really like and you want to support the creator, you tip them instead of them having to use like creepy trackers to get your information and sell it to someone else to make money. So it's trying to like shift the way that content creators and websites might be able to generate money instead of the creepy Web2 concept of tracking everyone everywhere. I see lots of folks talking about what they're using on mobile and on their laptops. It looks like we got a lot of DuckDuckGo and Brave users. I'm also part of the club. And that is what I have prepared. And feel free to ask any more questions.